70% of Americans were not financially healthy in 2020. 28% of Black Americans were financially vulnerable in 2020. How I was handling my career, it was really handling me. There was a point where I was like, should I even stay working? I was so thankful that God had spared my life. I was contemplating, maybe I should go into ministry. Maybe I should pursue pastoral ministry.
This is James Rosseau, a.k.a. Trig, and let me welcome you to the CoreLink Solutions Show. What's up, y'all? You are tuned in to a ad hoc CoreLink Solutions Show. It's James Rosseau, a.k.a. Trig, right here, y'all. And, of course, it's Holy Culture Radio, 4 o'clock out on the East, 1 p.m. out on the Pacific, and 3 p.m. Central. I'm doing a takeover because I got a very special guest in the house, a dear friend. We've worked together for many years. But let me give him an official intro. Today, I'm with Jason Patton, a seasoned leader and innovator in community and business development. Jason currently serves as the managing director and head of community and business development for the Northeast Division of J.P. Morgan Chase, where he leads initiatives focusing on strengthening community connections and promoting inclusive economic growth as part of Chase's ambitious, think about this, y'all, $30 billion 5-year investment. Jason and his team drive local engagement strategies aimed at improving financial health and fostering integrated partnerships within the communities Chase serves. Welcome, welcome, Jason Patton.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. It's really good to be here.
Yo, man, I'm so proud of you, bro. So good to see you, man.
Oh, listen, man, it's good to be in the lab finally, man. I know we've been trying to make this work for a while.
A minute, you know. Well, actually, when we first started talking about it, I think we were in the old space. I think we were still in Wilmington.
That's right. Okay,
we were still in Wilmington, so it's been a minute. We've been trying to plan this.
Finally made it happen.
It's good. It's good. Well, let me open with my regular question I ask everybody. What's one thing you could share that most people don't know about Jason? Even your closest friends don't know about you.
Wow. What's one thing? You know what? And folks wouldn't think this about me. I'm an introvert.
Okay.
I'm an introvert.
Okay.
You know, and folks think I'm, because I do a lot of public speaking and things like that, folks would assume, that it's like my natural tendency to be out front.
Yes.
Always want to be on the mic, to come on Holy Culture and do a spot with James. But actually, I'm more of the person that would love to be in the background. I like to listen more than I like to speak. So, folks wouldn't assume that. But, personality-wise, I would say I'm an introvert.
Yeah. What do you test as when, you do Myers-Briggs?
No,
you never done it?
Yeah, I've done it, but it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a
while.
How
far of an introvert were you? Do you recall?
I cannot recall. I can't recall.
Because I relate. Because I'm an introvert naturally, but I got closer to the middle because of the jobs.
Okay.
And the requirement to be us, it pushes you out. Yeah. So I was just curious.
It requires it. I mean, listen. To this day, I'm doing a public speaking event or anything like that. Practice. I mean, it just doesn't come natural for me.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't come natural. Folks think they do. I did
That's good to know.
I was doing a public speaking event actually on Thursday morning, and it went well. And folks were like, "Man, you just seem like it's a natural gift." I said, "Hey, it's practice."
Does it drain you?
Yeah. Emotionally sometimes.
Yeah,
emotionally. Just because you have to sort of get yourself in that zone, get geared up to actually speak, and then you hope you don't lay an egg. You hope you actually communicate what's in your head.
Yeah.
But it could be emotionally draining sometimes.
It could be draining. Yeah. I think extroverts need to know that, right? Because I think extroverts, that's what gives them energy.
Yeah.
Right.
For
being out, being gregarious. You know what I mean? For us, when we're done, we are drained.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I actually didn't know that about you, and then we worked together for a long time.
Absolutely. I had a coach once who we went through it. And I was like, wow, I used to be an I7. I'm an I1. She said, you've learned how to manage it.
Yeah.
Right? She said, but just be aware it does take you to a different zone.
Yeah, for sure.
And so once you're done and come off stage, you're probably wiped out. And I said, yes, that's exactly how I feel, right? All the prepreparation, getting ready for the thing, and then delivering it finally.
It's like birth.
Yes. And then after, it's like,
after the delivery.
Yeah. So how did you get into financial services?
I kind of getting into financial services for me was kind of accidental, right? So I remember I went to an HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama, Oakwood College at the time, now Oakwood University.
Gotcha.
Far away from home. I was born in the Bronx. My parents had moved from Jamaica to the BX, and so for them moving to this country, really the focus was on how my sister and I could have a better education.
Yeah.
And so, me going to college was not even a question. So went to an HBCU in Alabama, and at the time, really was sort of trying to find my footing academically. And once I did that, I got recruited for an analyst rotational program at JP Morgan Chase. And I remember flying up to New York and interviewing for it, and I was saying, "Wow, this is like
rotational.
Yeah, like this is the biggest financial institution in the world." And they're interested in a college student from the Bronx that's going to school in Alabama. And so for me, it was more about like just getting my foot in the door. I studied marketing. I wanted to get in that into that space. And for me, the best transition from academia to corporate was being in one of these rotational programs. Right. You can kind of like learn in a safe space and just kind of get your feet under you, build your resume out and things like that. So I knew I wanted to be in business.
Right.
I had a leaning towards marketing. Didn't think it would be lead me to financial services.
Gotcha.
And that was 20 plus years ago.
Wow. So you stuck. You've been here ever since.
Yeah. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it because and it's not just about moving money. Right. It really is about transforming people's lives. Right. Like the world kind of revolves around money. Right. And when you think about it, it's not just about like who has it and who doesn't. It's what you do with it when you do have it. Yeah. And what do you do when you don't have it? Yeah. And so so just the for me the aspect of how people manage their financial lives has been empowering because it's sort of been my own personal mission to see how can I help people manage their money better, because there's a lot of data that shows people don't do that as well. That's
right. When did that first click for you that it's not just about making money, but about transforming people's lives?
I'll be honest, it wasn't initially in my career. Initially in my career, it was really all about like trying to be accomplished, an executive, trying to climb the corporate ladder. Yeah. I'm trying to make a name for myself, trying to network and meet people and things like that. I would say probably midway through my career is when I started realizing that, there's a customer on the end of these products that we're selling, and they're making real life everyday decisions, whether I'm going to rotate a balance on this credit card or not, or am I going to set myself up for auto deposit. Right. Am I going to check my credit score using tools and resources made available to them? And how am I going to manage my financial life? Right. And I think that sort of like naturally led me into roles like managing the customer experience and, building products that are best suited for customers that are, maybe on the lower end of the, financial spectrum, ultimately to the role that I'm in today.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. What do you feel like were some of the like major points of evolution for you in your career over this 20 plus years?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that I've learned in my career about like the business of money. But I would say honestly, the biggest thing that I've learned about my career was more about like myself. And what I mean by that is, in 2005, I was working full time, long hours, burning a candle on both ends, going to school, and trying to really manage, work, school. Wasn't probably eating that right. Wasn't taking care of my health in the way that I could, in the best way that I could have. And I was still a young man, and it caught up with me. I remember getting sick, and I don't know if I shared this with you, Jay, but I ended up getting sick to the point where I had to go to the hospital. No. And I was actually had a seizure, right? I was in the hospital for a month and a half. Wow. Right? So this is me this is ambitious Jason trying to, make a name for himself and trying to be established and things like that. Wasn't married at the time, didn't have any kids. But got sick and ended up going to the hospital. And I was in there for a month and a half fighting for my life. Wow. I'm talking about swelling in my brain tissue. Talking about went colorblind at one point, lost my ability to speak, having hallucinations because of the way that my body was reacting to different medications. My point is like how I was handling my career. Yeah, it was really handling me. Yeah, because I wasn't really taking advantage. I wasn't really sort of managing my own personal health and how I approach my career. Yeah. And so because of that, it really changed my perspective around like, what is your purpose at work? You're going to work as hard as you're going to work. that's great. One, you need to take care of yourself, but then what are you really doing at the end of the day that's worth your health?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
man, how'd your parents react to that?
Listen, I remember I had this massive seizure. It was at my parents' house, New Year's Eve, 2005. I remember, and it collapsed in my mother's dining room. You know, and they rushed me to the hospital, and you know, tried to treat me and things like that. But I remember my mother, who's a praying woman, really, really never left my side. You know, she of course was distraught, but through that entire journey of me trying to recuperate and you know just you know trying to really just survive.
Right.
At one point, she really just covered me in prayer.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like she just really never left my side. And I say she handled it in stride, but I'm sure she was probably a mess as well. But out of that, she's, you know, started a prayer group of people who really prayed for me and things like that. And ultimately, you know, recovered, regained my health, and you know, went back to work. And it was sort of like the beginning of another chapter in my life. You know, I wasn't just going to work anymore.
Right.
Now I was going to work with purpose.
Yeah, you got
know
purpose.
What I'm saying? Yeah.
Man, thank God you were at your parents' house.
Oh my God.
When this happened, as opposed to like by yourself in your apartment.
Could have been in my car.
In your car.
You know,
right,
and
right.
But honestly, I really believe to this day, and this is my testimony. I mean, I really believe like God said, spared my life for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't just to, you know, get better, go back to work and live a great life. You know, God has blessed me. You know, since then I met my wife and had 3 beautiful kids. Things like that. Like life really took off for me after that. But it wasn't until I think things were put in perspective. Yeah. Which is to say, hey, listen, you know, you're not invincible.
Yeah.
You know
what was your faith journey like before and after that experience?
Completely different, Jay.
Yeah.
Completely different. I mean, you know, even when I went to school, you know, it was sort of an awakening because I realized, and the school I went to happened to be it was an HBCU, but it was also a Christian institution. Mm-hmm. When going to school, I realized there were people there that, one, they took their academics a lot more seriously than I did, which was an awakening because I realized, well, these are people I'm going to be competing against for jobs once I leave here.
Right.
But 2, these were people that took their faith seriously too, and they knew how to balance the two. For me, I hadn't found that balance yet. I really wasn't walking with the Lord. It wasn't personal at that point.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, fast forward to this incident, I was still trying to find my footing. You know, I was living in Delaware at the time, working and things like that, but I hadn't really sort of like, my faith walk hadn't really taken off yet.
Yeah.
And I think this was sort of that catalyst where it's like, Lord, you got my attention now. Right. You know, and maybe I was playing games before and I wasn't really taking it seriously. And, you know, it really, life revolved around work and school. Right. Life kind of revolved around academics and around my career. And after that, I realized, hey, listen, there's a big component missing in my life. And even though I was a Christian by name, I wasn't a Christian in my faith walk. And that changed. Yeah. And once that changed, other things started falling in line. Yeah. Then you started realizing, okay, there's a reason why I'm going to work. Right. You know, and it's not just to like do a great presentation or do a great job. There's people who I'm working with every single day, you know, that need something that I have. Right. And so I remember even coming back after I got sick and, you know, there were balloons and streamers and things like that, you know, in my office. And I realized like, wow, people actually were showing me the love of God. I wasn't necessarily doing that myself. You know what I'm saying?
You were absorbed in the climb. Yeah, what was your role at that time?
At that time, I was in marketing and I think I was doing event marketing for some of like our large partners.
Got it. Like Hugh and Hugh and
you
Terry,
remember Regina. Yeah, you remember.
Shout out to Hugh. I miss Hugh. He used to crack me up, man. Hugh and Devin, watching them go
short too.
Watching Hugh and Devin go. So here's the interesting thing, right? So you were in a mode where you were driving to get to certain places, right? Driving to achieve. Yeah. And then you change your perspective, you pull back on the drive, you move more towards purpose, and your career is accelerated in a wild way, man. Yeah. Like think of how far you've gone since that time, right?
Listen, it was, I mean, you know, but I would say this though, right? Between then and career-wise where I am now, and thank you for the compliment, there was a point where I was like, man, well, should I even stay working? You know, because now I was so, you know, thankful that God had spared my life. I was like, you know, contemplating, well, maybe I should go into ministry. You know, maybe I should pursue pastoral ministry. And I was really thinking about that for a while. I had applied to some schools that got accepted, but there was something that just wouldn't let me leave corporate America. I was really thinking like, man, I should go and really like devote all of my time, all my energy to, you know, to pastoral ministry. And then God, I think really kind of spoke to me in the sense that saying like, listen, you don't have to be a pastor to be a minister.
That's right.
You know, like, you know, you're in a corporate space that pastors can't go to.
That's right.
You know,
use it.
Yeah, right. Use your platform.
Use it.
You know, and that's something you and I have talked about a lot.
Absolutely.
Actually. Like, I mean, you can reach people that a pastor couldn't, and by your influence.
Right.
You know, you're not necessarily walking around holding Bible studies in the office and things like that, but you have a platform that others don't have. So how are you going to use that to the glory of God?
That's good.
You see what I'm saying? And so for me, that's when I think things kind of clicked, and it wasn't just about the work anymore. It was really about like the influence that you have on the people you work with.
Right.
And then ultimately, in terms of what you're delivering, you know, you want that to be as high quality as possible, because that shows, you know, that also gives glory to God as well.
That's good.
So things change.
That's good, man. I mean, that's a life-transforming experience there, right? That started with, obviously, something that felt, like you said, it could have been fatal, tragic, right? But you turned it around into a life trajectory changing moment. So then from there, like, what are some of the, as people listen who may be younger in their career, and they think about, man, what are some of the experiences Jason may have had that in the workplace that I need to be thinking about trying to get my arms around, and even how you approach opportunities and whatnot? I mean, because unfortunately, people don't hang around companies 25 years anymore. Right, it's not as common.
Yeah. You're right. People every 2 years.
People think they have to. They believe sometimes they have to jump in order to move ahead.
True.
Right, and you're showing, well, no, you don't. The other thing is, we often can believe we have to wear the badge of being a grinder. I'm on the grind, grinding, to succeed. Once again, you're saying not true, right? So you shared the personal experience and the life change there. What about inside the walls of the organization? What are some of the things you feel have helped you really move ahead?
You know what, for me, like, you know, one, I would say to, you know, any young person that's listening to this, you know, continual education. You know, like school doesn't stop. You know, when you finish school and you're working full time, you're still in school. You know, whether you're pursuing a higher ed degree or an MBA or anything like that, like, because you always have to be a student if you're going to continue to grow. And so, you know, what has fueled my career has just been like just the continual learning and just the curiosity of what I don't know. You know, if I'm a marketer and I'm responsible for this channel, well, what about the product that, you know, we're pushing this channel through? So let me learn about that. Or if not the product, what about the partnership? You know, or if not the partnership, what about the business? You know, or the P&L. If not the P&L, what about the servicing? You know, so for me, just the evolution of just like continually learning. But I would say, you know, for you know, so you never stop learning. That's the first thing. I think the other thing is really trying to connect what it is you do on an everyday basis to the ultimate mission and vision of your company. Because, like, I think sometimes people feel like they just sort of move and work along.
That's right.
You know, you just kind of, you're doing your sort of your little thing in your cubicle or whatever. And so, you know, you just moving.
Does anybody care?
Yeah, does anybody care? I'm just moving widgets. I'm just pushing out reports or whatnot. But you have to connect what you're doing back to sort of like the broader mission and vision.
Absolutely.
And sort of see like your contribution through that lens.
Absolutely.
Because then you now become an owner. You
That's
know,
right.
now I'm just not like pushing paper. Now I'm actually an owner of something.
That's right.
And it contributes to the bigger picture, but you have to understand like what success means. You know, I work for profit, so I need to understand like, how does this business make money?
Right.
So that what I'm doing every day, I can tie that back to how ultimately, you know, we're adding shareholder value.
Absolutely.
Things like that. And then ultimately, you know, you want to stand out, so you do want to make headlines.
Yeah.
You know, I had a leader one time I was pouring to. He said, make headlines, because people think in headlines.
That's right.
People remember the headlines, and so
that's right.
You know, you have to think about like, you know, how am I kind of learning? How am I building a network of people to surround myself with? How am I challenging myself to contribute to the business? And, you know, ultimately, how am I delivering value? How am I making headlines?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What, when you think about your role now, how do you describe what you do on a daily basis with people?
Yeah. So this is, and this is why I'm really glad to like sit down and have this conversation, because I'm even though I work for a big firm, the idea is, you know, we've always wanted to feel like a local bank, you know, and so I do work on the consumer side of the business. And so within the consumer bank, you know, yes, we have almost 5,000 branches across the country, but in any given neighborhood, you want to feel like your local Chase branch where you can walk in and it's like cheers. Everybody knows your name.
Right.
You want your branch manager to know your name, and you obviously want them to have a personal interest in whatever your financial goals are and how they can help you achieve that. Challenges in certain communities, and sometimes certain low and moderate income communities, people don't necessarily trust banks. They don't trust financial institutions. And so because of that, they resort to coping mechanisms when it comes to their finances, traditional forms of banking. They resort to payday lenders, and they resort to check cashing places and things like that. And so my day job, and this is a blessing, is working with a team of people to go outside the four walls of the bank and outside the four walls of a branch in communities, particularly that are challenged, and educate people on how to manage their finances.
Yeah.
So really, it's all about financial health. In the process, we can build trust with these communities that we're hoping to uplift, because that's ultimately our main objective. How do we uplift these communities? How do we make sure that we're a transforming force in these communities? Because as the community goes, so goes our franchise. Right. And so, while we want to help individuals and small businesses, ultimately you have to have trust if they're going to work with you, or you have to have relationships if they're going to consider, you their bank of choice.
Right.
And so what we're doing is we're providing financial education, financial literacy. And so we partner with, nonprofits and colleges and universities. We partner with chambers of commerce and healthcare systems and police departments and reentry centers. And with every single organization that we partner with, financial health, believe it or not, is a component, is a priority, even if they don't realize it.
Right.
Because it helps accelerate their mission.
That's right.
You talk to a police department, and their main objective is how do we keep these streets secure and safe. We partnered with a police department in Brooklyn, and they were doing a gun buyback program. So they're giving people money for plastic guns. What are they doing with the money when they get it?
Right.
How can we show them how to use that money so they don't have to resort to the means that cause them to make a plastic gun in the first place?
That's right.
Things like that. And so financial health is a really powerful tool to helping people achieve their own personal financial goals, but also helping mission-minded organizations achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And whatever that goal is, financial health, by and large, is another resource.
Yeah. Now I see a lot of your posts, a lot of pictures, a lot of everything from with police department to the opening of the hip hop museum to, so on and so forth. What's been some of the biggest ahas since you've been in the role for you?
Well, I'll tell you this. So first of all, the numbers around financial health are pretty stark, right? And I didn't want to misquote this, so I printed out some things.
Yeah.
Because I just got back from the conference I was telling you about in San Diego. 70% of Americans were not financially healthy in 2023.
And we're not financially healthy.
Right.
And by definition, what's financially healthy?
So financially healthy, use this as a working definition. Having enough money to cover an emergency expense.
For how long?
For at least 3 months.
For at least 3 months.
Right.
Okay.
Working definition.
Working definition, yep.
All right. 28% of Black Americans were financially vulnerable in 2023. So they were maybe teetering on the edge. Now compare that to their white counterparts. That's actually more than twice the share of white Americans.
Got it.
90% of people with disabilities were not financially healthy. So I mentioned before about my situation. I have a silent disability with epilepsy. 90% of people with disabilities were not financially healthy. And 51% of Americans spend the same or more than their income, which is the highest since 2018.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of data out there that shows that there are communities in America, where people are sort of just teetering on the brink. They're just surviving. They're just making it, from paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And that puts them in a position where, they can't afford the unexpected emergency. They're certainly not thinking about necessarily home ownership,
right?
And or what it might look like to send their kids to college and things like that. And so they're struggling, So for me, the aha was, yes, the stark data that could really be, paint a picture of doom and gloom, but the fact that there's something that we can actually do to address that,
right? And
a lot of it does center around education,
right?
Education and empowerment. You need tools and resources, but you also need to know just the basics of how to manage money.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that, as you were saying that, it just made me think about the financial crash. What was that, 07, 08?
Yeah.
Right? And just watching consumer behavior during that time period and how awful it felt.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of, people just leaving the keys in the door of the house and leaving with a note. Take the house.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm driving off with this car. I'm going to keep this credit card active, so I have some credit to use.
Right.
Take the house. I'm out. Right. And
think about that.
I remember how like the gut punches we felt, and then I remember when the Consumer Financial Protection Board came in place, right, and started talking about all of the credit card fee structures. Remember all that work we did?
Yes, I remember. Oh my gosh.
Running in the hallway, beating us down on the rates and all those things, and the late fee changes.
Everything changed. The statements,
everything,
how you report it. Yeah.
And everything. So when you say this, it just takes me back to those times and some of the disproportionate access to money and credit, right? Yeah. And so as you're out in communities, what are some of the initial conversations you have to have that are the harder conversations in terms of getting people to buy into, you know what, Jason Patton, Chase, we do want to hear more. Yeah. What do you typically have to say to get people to want to hear more?
You know, I think the first thing that sometimes we have to overcome is, and this isn't just unique to Chase, but any banking institution, is you don't have to have guaps of money to be responsible with your finances.
Yeah.
You know, like it really does. You really have to sort of first overcome like sometimes the emotional relationship that we have with money, right? Like, because money's not something that we talk about a lot. Like I know growing up, you know, like I said, my parents migrated to this country, you know, in the 80s with like $50 US.
Right.
You know, so we came from humble beginnings, and but money wasn't necessarily a topic of discussion at the dinner room table, where we talked about like how much do we have and how much do we not have. You know, you just knew what was on the plate, and then you could kind of surmise like, okay, I guess we don't have a lot tonight if we just eating like, you know, corned beef hash, corned beef hash or whatever, you know,
P&J, whatever, P&J.
You know, so but you know, you have to sort of first, I think, get comfortable with talking about finances,
right?
And once you're able to sort of get past that, then you can talk about like, well, regardless of how much you have, you can still be responsible with it. You know, you can make your money work for you. You can set yourself up for success in your family, but it does require discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, you know, when folks sort of walk past the financial institutions, the big banks and things like that, what they're thinking is, I don't have enough money, so they don't care about me. Right. Or they're thinking, you know, well, listen, if I go to them, my information is not going to, you know, my money won't be my own.
Right.
So I better keep it under my mattress, you know, or, you know, why should I trust them? You know, if, you know, if I trust them, then I'm going to get defrauded or scammed and things like that. Right. I think not realizing that, you know, it's actually the opposite. Right. So, you know, these people actually, you know, just like you, care about their financial futures. Right. You know, they care about sending their kids to school, and they care about, you know, getting a home, and they care about those things as well. So, you know, I think sometimes getting past like the stigma of big banks, you know, and what they stand for, and they just want to, you know, take all your money and things like that. You have to sometimes overcome that hurdle.
Yes.
As well as people's just kind of like emotional, you know, connection with money in general. Yeah.
What has been some of the things you've been most proud of, man, since getting into the role?
You know, there's a lot, Jay. There's a lot, man. I would say, you know, going back to the Bronx and opening up a community financial center. Yeah. You know, we have a different format of a branch that we refer to as a community center branch.
Gotcha.
And we opened up one last year in April on Fordham Road, which is a street we used to shop at growing up as a kid. I remember getting lost in a department store across the street. Yeah. Literally down the street from where we opened the branch, there used to be a payphone booth, and I remember splitting my finger on this wire that was frayed from the telephone booth, you know, coming out. So going there and opening up that financial, that community center branch, knowing that this is a space that we created for the community to come in and learn, like whether you bank with Chase or not, like to come in and sit down and learn about how to manage your finances. To learn how to budget, how to save, you know, for emergencies, you know, how to manage credit responsibly, you know, things like that. And to do that in my own borough. Right. A borough, which, by the way, is one of the most challenged counties in the country. Right. Like when you think about New York City, when you think about like, and I'll just use this as an example, the rate of people that don't have any banking relationship. Right. Right. You know, nationally, it's 4.5%. In Manhattan, it's 9%. Don't have a banking relationship.
In Manhattan.
In the Bronx, it's 17%.
Wow.
Right. So you're talking about a community, you with a makeup of folks that don't necessarily have that trust relationship with financial institutions, and therefore, their financial future, you'd say, might be less secure. And it's and part of it is because of the education.
4 times more not banked.
Right. Yeah. Almost 4 times more unbanked.
Right.
In the Bronx, which is the highest county in the country. So opening that financial center where we can bring people in and educate them about how to manage their own finances.
Yeah.
That was something that was really, really special. And then the other thing I'd point to is, New York has one of the largest public, university systems in the country.
Yeah.
And so, partnering with these institutions like City University of New York or CUNY to bring financial literacy into the classroom.
Yeah.
Right. So that students can not only, learn economics, they can also learn personal finances and get course credit for it. That's something that's really powerful. So introducing that into the school system has been game changing in so many ways.
That's good.
So many ways.
That's good. So backing up a sec, when I think about this, when did you come into this role?
2022. So
how hard was it for you to make that decision to move? Because you were moving on a trajectory. You had moved from marketing into credit card portfolio management.
Right.
And continuing on the track of like being on the
front end for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So you're leading, profit-based P&Ls. Yeah. Now you're more on the, I want to say the staff side, but you're more on the giving side, right? You're not leading a revenue train.
Right.
How hard was it to make that decision?
That was tough.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks listening, folks that's watching, I'm talking to somebody who every career decision I've made for the last 20 years, I've called before I made that decision. Right? So James is like he's a friend. He's like a big brother. He's a mentor. Somebody you talk about trusted advisors and counselors. Like he's somebody who I call.
Thank you, bro.
So you've known my career from the very beginning. And so for me, it was a tough decision to walk away from P&L ownership to a business, to your point, that isn't revenue generating, right? Because we're not selling products when we're doing workshops.
Right.
We're talking about like financial literacy.
Right.
We're not in classrooms, selling checking accounts.
Right.
And things like that. So that was a conscious decision, though,
right?
Challenging but conscious, because I knew that this division that was being stood up was going to be immensely impactful. And so for me, sort of following your passion in that sense, gave me the greatest comfort. So yes, I had to sort of like maybe put my P&L to the side, but at the same time, knowing that what we're doing is impactful, is transformational in people's lives,
right?
Was important, and it's not philanthropy. Like my space is not charity. In many cases, the people that we educate say, "Hey, I want to learn more," and ultimately they end up saying, "Hey, I want to open my home and I want Chase to be my bank." So. So
you're spreading seeds. You're spreading really
absolutely,
good seeds.
Absolutely. And if it's good for the community, it's also good for the franchise. And so in that sense, it does yield returns. So but I knew that I was sort of like taking a not a deviation from my career path. This was sort of like another step.
Yes.
Towards
a slower P&L track. A much slower P&L
much slower.
Right.
But going back to what we talked about at the beginning in terms of like what I would learn.
Yeah.
Like how to do community impact at scale.
Yes.
How to business development where you're working with these large institutions and field engagement and and so again, the learning journey I think was something that for me has been rewarding.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And the reason I asked that, fortunately, I've got an inside view. I've seen you work through the decisions and all those things. But I'm asking for the benefit of others because sometimes I think there's a perception that, man, I'm going to give up so much if I come off driving the money train, right? In any company, right? The immediate reaction is, man, wait a minute, I'm going like this, and if I keep doing this, and I get a promo, and this, that, and that, I could be the SVP of this business, and you go, what? Wait a minute, I'm going to do a kumbaya role. I'm going to do, wait a minute, and I just want people to think about like how many things make a round wheel of life, so to speak, right? There's your health, your wealth, your family, your hobbies, and all those things, right, to keep your wheel in balance. And so when you're making those decisions, it's not one singular thing. There are a number of things to consider.
It's not. And by the way, like, why can't you do something that's fulfilling? Why can't you do something that's personally gratifying and rewarding?
Totally.
And just something that, I've learned a lot through observation, and a lot of this is from you. Like, the more that you can sort of converge those three circles. I don't know if you remember, we used to talk about those three circles.
Absolutely.
We talk about like is what you're passionate about, is what you're professionally gifted at, and then is what you feel like your purpose to do.
Absolutely.
And the more you kind of converge those circles, then you start finding that you're really sort of operating in your giftedness. You know what I'm saying? And so like the more that you can align those things, you're really not giving up anything if you're following something that you're passionate about.
Man, I'm honored that you listened and remember some of these conversations. I'm sitting here going like, that conversation was probably 15 years ago.
Kidding me? Like, 15 plus years ago.
You remember these conversations. This is crazy.
I remember a lot of conversations we used to have in that office.
This is crazy. But you know what's so funny? Slight departure. What I remember most, man, about some of our times is when you were upset. I don't know if you knew this, but you walk differently when you're upset. And so when you would walk in my office, I would go, oh, he's about to drop something. You do this, I don't know how to describe it. Your legs don't bend. You just kind of walk like this with your legs out, just the stride, right? And you walk in, I need to talk to you, Jack. I was like, okay. All right.
You know what though? But you created that safe space. You know what I mean? And there was stuff I needed to come unload. Like, hey man, I'm gonna let it out here, or I'm gonna let it out. No, let it out there.
It's one of the partners we have, man.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I've had the benefit of doing, man, is see you with your team, and I could tell they not only do they like you, love you, but they have deep respect for you. Yeah. How would you describe your leadership style?
Oh man, it's evolved. I mean, I probably early on in my career when I first started, being a people leader was probably more of a, directive leader, telling people, what they should do as far as versus asking them, what should we do?
Right.
And so I think my leadership style has evolved to where now I think I'm more of a leader where, I really believe in empowering my people to make good decisions and then trying to come alongside them and, coach them towards, what we think is the best solution.
Yeah.
But it's definitely collaborative.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative style.
Yeah.
And then also one too, where I think people who work for you should know you actually care about them personally.
Mm-hmm.
If people know you care about them personally, which means I also care about your well-being.
Right.
I think people, generally speaking, they actually, they're more motivated and want to work harder for somebody that they know actually has their best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely in that sense, trying to, be more of a servant leader, I guess, than anything else. And just kind of, you want to lead by example. You want to hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But you also want to let people know it's more than the work that they're doing. You actually care about them as humans.
Right.
And I think when people know that, they generally get the most out of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's been an evolution.
That's
right?
good.
It's definitely been an evolution.
That's good.
Yeah.
How have you handled, because I have to assume some of this is still true. How have you handled the mentorship demand on you?
Yeah.
And when
I got this bad habit from this guy named Trig to like never turn down a mentee, and like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
I just realized that people have made space for me in their career, in my career journey, to just give me information, motivation, help me watch out for my blind spots and things like that. So for me, it's been, and it's not because it's forced. Like I genuinely enjoy mentoring people. It's just like making the time and space.
Right.
And so, but I have found like one of the most rewarding things is trying to help people on their own journey. It's not the same as my journey, but if I can be a sounding board or maybe give you advice or tell you mistakes I made along the way, and that's helpful for you, that's a 15-minute conversation. That's a 30-minute sit down. That's a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner. Like for me, that's one of the most rewarding things about working is being able to, help people on their journey. Yeah. As a people leader, same thing. Helping develop people so they can reach their full potential. Like that's personally gratifying.
Right.
Like I enjoy that. That's not. One of the greatest things I enjoy doing going to work every day is working with people. You couldn't lock me in the office, doing code without any human interaction. Like I go insane. Like
it's funny you say that, man, because I went to school to be a programmer, and when I came out of programming school, I went and sat with. I don't know why I didn't do this before going to programming school, but after I came out of school, I'm working at this clothing manufacturer, and they got a programming department downstairs, and I said, just got a programming school. They're like, come down, hang out. So I go down there to hang out, and they sit me at a desk, and they're like, what did you learn in school? And I said, I had learned C and some other stuff. And they gave me a bunch of papers and things, and then just sat me in this queue and looked around.
Have at it.
Yeah, have at it. Looking around. Like, do you guys talk to each other?
Right.
I think 2 days. That's it. That was my programming career. It was like 2 days.
I couldn't do it. And even with the, going back to the whole being an introvert thing, like like personal relationships, one-on-one conversations. Absolutely. Like for me, like I love listening. I love having conversations with people and talking and things like that. I love collaborating to get things done. Right. And that's all on the strength of just like interacting and and just like having human interaction and conversations and relationships.
And what's so beautiful about it is if you 10 years ago I was doing this presentation about leadership, and I decided I wanted a key slide in that presentation to kind of be a wheel or a journey map of every person who impacted me, whether they were a manager or a mentor. And so it started with Joe Jankowski. Well, of course, mom and father, right? But my first job was with this guy, Joe Jankowski. Yeah. I was 14. He owned a hardware store. And then it just went to all these different peoples, including like Tony Glover, Heather Phillip, Deb Walden.
She's retiring.
Is she? Yeah.
She sent me a text today.
Bill, who managed the credit card business, right?
Yeah.
And you just... And the amount of names was incredible. And the fact that with each person, I could name 2 or 3 things I learned from them that are still a part of my kind of leadership toolkit, if you will, right? Absolutely. And so that's what I think people should get. And in this time where we are still coming out of heavy doses of isolation, I would just encourage people to remember, every time you have an interaction, real interaction, and I'm not discrediting social interactions, to be clear, but they are different. Yeah. Every time you have interaction, there's an opportunity to learn something from someone. You get another perspective.
Absolutely. You know what I would say, that just to add to that one thing, I think the terrible managers I've had.
Yes. Man.
I've learned exactly who I don't want to be. Right. Now, I've learned some things from them that are positive, but I've also learned the type of style I don't want to have. Yes. And I've also learned the impact I don't want to have on people, because, you realize when you're leading people, like, you're on the dinner table at night, so they're going home talking to their family members about, and I had a terrible day. Why? Man, my manager this, my manager that. You realize, like, you set the tone for people absolutely when they're outside of work and things like that. And so, but I've learned some things technically from, even the worst of managers, but more than anything, I thank them because I've learned a type of people leader I don't want to be.
Listen,
I'm like, I don't want to be like that.
I mean, I don't do it as much now, but when I was in the corporate environment, I would keep, so you know how you walk around with your little pad or whatever? I'm one of those guys like a little book, right? Yeah. And, day by day, you got your meeting notes from meetings. Right. But I was always have these pages in the back of the book of like what I thought were huge, either like BHAG thoughts, like, or like big learnings. And I would have this ledger sheet of the good I'm learning from people, and then on the other side, the things I don't want to do. And I would keep it. Like, I'd be in a meeting with certain people, and I'd go back to my book. Like,
write that one down.
I
definitely don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
I don't want to be that person that's just comes.
Or, I just saw him do something so good. Like, for example, like one was a Gordon Smith thing. When Gordon took over the credit card business, and he was in the room, and this statement always stood with me, and he said, people say they like change, but that's when they're driving the change. He's like, I'm driving this change. So most of you guys probably won't like it. I remember when he said that was like the second or third sentence in that town hall that day. And he said, people like change, but they like it when they're making a change. Man. I am making this change. And so you will have to decide if you want to stay on this bus or not. Shit. And you're going to keep the uniform on. And do me the favor of don't make me find you no longer having the uniform on.
Transparent.
Like, it was so crystal clear.
Transparent.
Within 90 seconds. Yeah. I said, wow, man.
Transparent.
I remember writing that down. This guy is good.
Transparency. Yeah, transparency. I've learned a lot, man. There's some leaders that show me even culturally, like, you can show up as yourself. Yeah. I have a Caribbean background, and sometimes you feel like you need to suppress certain things, and, certain... like you can bring your faith to work. Absolutely. You can bring your culture to work. I mean, you get the best version of that person anyway when they're like, people talk about bringing your whole self to work. I really feel like in the corporate space, like you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. you have to be your authentic self. You
Absolutely.
know? And if you're trying to be somebody else, which sometimes there's a tendency to do because you figure I need to look like this, I need to dress like that, I need to talk like this, and so forth. That's draining.
Yes.
That's draining.
Yes.
You know, and so yeah, you can bring your. There's only one version of you. It's like, you know, one of one.
Only one of one.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good to hear you say that, right? Because that's another one where I think that we often feel like we have to. Well, let me say it this way. I remember being at you know, the Christiana Center had the DOC, the Delaware Operating Committee, and we would get together and do these surveys. And I never forget being in a survey focus group, post survey, talking to people to get the deep comments. And this one woman turned and said to me, I felt like she purposely turned to me as a fellow person of color to get it. And she said, well, I just want to be honest. Every day I leave part of me in the parking lot when I walk through these turnstiles. I said, is that right? She said, yes. Yeah. Right? Yeah. With the eyebrows.
Right, yes.
And I said, okay, I get it. And her point was, and I remember following up with her, that she felt like the campus wasn't culturally welcoming. Interesting. Right? And it created a lot of great diversity initiatives and how we made people were heard, how we made sure people were heard and whatnot. Yeah. But I'll never forget that, because what you said is not always the case where people feel like they could bring them full selves, right? And we have to, as leaders, create that environment.
We have to, because otherwise we won't get the most out of the people that are
absolutely,
you know, that are working for us and with us. And ultimately, I just think the culture. Yeah. You know, you sort of stifle the culture that way as well. Yeah. If your culture is supposed to be one where people feel like they belong here,
right?
You spend so much time there.
That's right.
You spend 10, 8, 10, 12 hours sometimes at work. You know, and so why wouldn't you want to feel like you belong in that place?
That's right.
And so I just think that's really important. And then also, you know, I just think that on the topic of faith, I mean, like, I think that's important as well for people to be able to express the things that they believe and so forth, you know, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. Let me ask you this. What projects that you can talk about are you most excited about that you're working on right now?
Man, you know, I think the way, and I kind of alluded to it before, but I think the way that we've been expanding on this community-focused business strategy of, you know, improving the financial health and well-being of individuals is an umbrella for a lot of things that we're doing that are really exciting. Yeah, you know, and one of them that I just mentioned a moment ago, but I'll mention it again, is when you talk about people's financial acumen and their financial well-being, you know, you got to start younger and younger.
Yes.
This day and age, right? You can't just, it can't just be when you're, you know, when you're an adult and you have your first job. It has to be like when you're in school, you're, you know, you're considering what you want to be when you grow up,
right?
You know, and usually it's even before college and education,
yes,
you know, college and university. And so one of the things I'm excited of is like how we're partnering with local schools and how we're partnering with school systems to try to make sure that this is embedded. But not just that. It's one thing to have like lectures, but what we found from our own experience and from data and research is that it's coaching where you start to see behavioral changes. So like you get information and that's great. You go to a workshop, you get information, that's great. But to see real behavior change means you need to personalize that. Now you need to like do your own budget. And to do that, a lot of times, if that's facilitated by a coach, then you really start to see the behavior changes that drive the outcomes you want to see. And so we've been testing this model where you have both the in-classroom instruction coupled with, you know, one-on-one coaching.
Nice.
And when you do that, then you start to see things like people come into class more consistently. Your persistence rates go up.
Gotcha.
They graduate on time.
That's good.
You start to see, you know, their reliance on government assistance going down. You start to see that their, you know, bad debt decreases and their credit scores increase. You know, their savings increases. So you start to measure all the things that would be indicators of financial health and resilience. And all of that comes through, you know, again, both that combination of, you know, personalized coaching as well as instruction. And that is something that I think in my mind is a scalable solution. That's something that you can actually, you know, grow and sort of like distribute, like that working model. You know, and I think that model I'm really excited about because again, you see real change, measurable real change, and it's something that you can sort of export.
That's what I love about what you said, because you've got a great set of leading and lagging indicators, right? So you can see what's happening sooner rather than later, not 18 months from now, but from week to week.
Right.
With some of those leading indicators that will
absolutely
grow a lot of fruit.
How many schools can say like, hey, listen, you're not just going to finish with a degree, so that you can go off and pursue your, pursue your career, but you're also leaving here with just like a good financial baseline, like just a good knowledge base to manage your own personal finances. Yeah. What do you do when you get your first check?
Exactly.
You won't be like me when you blew it and, when it's spent it all doing, nonsense.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
What would you, let's assume, I believe anyway, roles are for a season. Yeah. Right. We don't get to own the chair forever. Right? For a season. What will you want to say you have accomplished when you move to the next thing?
Yeah. I do think about like my career in terms of chapters in a book, right? Yeah. Like first chapter was kind of like just living. Like I need to make like a livable wage. Right. I need to be financially stable.
For Jamaican parents.
Oh man. I need to make a livable wage. I need to get financially stable. Yeah. Started a family. Like, it's just sort of like, living. Yeah. I do more and more these days think about legacy, not in terms of like, people think about like their own personal legacy. Mm-hmm. What will I be known for? What did I do? I think about it more in terms of like, what have I left behind? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's sustainable. Like, right. And so like, what am I leaving behind that will, outlast me? Right. Like that community center branch. Like that I will be able to walk my kids to that branch 10 years from now. It will still be there. Mm-hmm. It will still be a community center. Things like that, I think, are leave behinds. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't like it's not a monument for me or even for the institution. Right. It's like a leave behind for the community. Yes. Yes. And so like for me, I think about legacy in that way. Like, what are you doing that's going to sort of outlive you, and be sustainable and be like perpetually impactful to the people that pick it up after you and for the people that come behind. Yeah. Like that. So I definitely think about that. And then the third chapter is leaving. It's all else. Yeah. It's like first chapter is living, second chapter is legacy, third chapter is like, is leaving. But even with that one, you think about like I don't think about it necessarily like riding off into the sunset, but are you leaving things in a better place than you found them? Right. You know what I mean? And so, and that's both personally and professionally. Are you leaving your business in a better place than you found it? Mm-hmm. Is your family set up for success financially for the future and things like that? Yeah. And so, so I think about it kind of in sort of like those kind of phases. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. I like it.
What would you, kind of wrapping up a little bit, what would you tell 18-year-old Jason if you had a chance to talk to him?
Take care of your health. Mm-hmm. Take care of your health, because if you don't take care of your health, you won't be around to take care of the people that need you the most. Mm. And that's a lesson, like I said, I had to learn the hard way. Yeah. And so much so to the point, like, I think that journey on its own gave me sort of a different sense of purpose in terms of, we've been talking a lot about today about financial wellness, physical wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness. For me, like now I kind of see the connectivity of them all. Because if you're not physically well, forget about like being financially stable. Right. If you're not physically well, forget about, spiritually being in a good, exactly. Like, all of these things are so interconnected, mental and things like that. So for me, the biggest thing is like, if you can take care of your body and your mind for that matter, then other things you'll be better equipped to take care of other things. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I would definitely like say, Jay, like, take your time, like take care of yourself. Right. And above all, and, it's just why I like today, like, I enjoy running and trekking and, hiking and different things like that outdoors, because like I realize like, and also these are great outlets to like relieve stress. Yes. Like that. So that younger guy, I would say like be ambitious, but take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. On balance. Take care of yourself. You're not Iron Man. Yeah. 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 Man, it's so good to see you, brother. I'm so glad we finally got this. Listen, man, it's an honor. Honestly, to be here sitting with you across from you. Thank you, brother. I feel like I would want to turn around and just like interview you because of everything you've accomplished, and just you set the bar so high. Oh, thank you. You set the bar so high as far as what a black male executive looked like. You know, like you showed me what was possible. You know, like, you know, you need sometimes, like, you need to be able to visualize it. You know, you need to be able to see what it looks like versus just talking about it. And all the conversations I've had with people, you know, that they want to complain at the water cooler, like they don't promote us, and they don't, you know, I've always, you know, for me, it's like, well, be the change you want to see, because I've seen it. I see what it looks like, because I had a great, you know, illustration of what that looks like. You know, of a black male executive who is owning his space and being respected for that. You know, and so for me, it was like, okay, I have this mental image of what that looks like, and it's possible because I've seen it done. You know, and so you know, I tip my hat to you, Jay, in so many ways, because even doing that, and you know, and in your family life, you know, and not being afraid to make big changes and big decisions, you know, in your career, like taking major risk along the way, and but reaping the rewards, and then even like where we're sitting right now, it's like this was like a dream and a vision, and now it's like a reality. So for me, man, like the inspiration, a lot of the inspiration, man, comes from you. So
thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
If people want to follow up with you and what's going on with Jason Patton, what's the right way they should follow up with you, man?
Well, I'll give you first a couple like resources just to go back to some of the financial tools I was talking about before. You know, chase.com/financial goals is a great resource just in terms of like tips to managing your finances better, things like that I think are practical and useful. So chase.com/financial goals. And then going back to the white paper I mentioned that we published around like financial health as a movement and how we can address that across America. jpmorganchase.com/financial health is a great publication that just kind of showed like how that can be addressed through different strategies. You know, and so you know, and people can always find me on LinkedIn.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, man, thank you for coming, brother.
Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, family, I'm going to put you back into this music mix. This was an ad hoc version of the Cool Link Solution Show, y'all. Blessings.